All right, so here we are back again. Um, I guess this is our third recording. So I'm here with my dear friend Karen, and I'm Diane. And we were just having our conversation, and I said, Karen, are you ready to start talking about light language? So here we are today, and the topic being um, the language of light language, and light codes,
Mm.
what it is and why it's here and how to use it, and um, getting into how we learned about it and started working with it too, which might possibly it be in a second episode.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, light language. Karen, do you want to go into what it is, or
Oh,
would you like me to? I'll just start with um,
why don't you start? Because and
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So light language is energy. It is a frequency. It is a language that the mind doesn't understand. And so, like, we're speaking the language of English, and words are translated as they're being spoken or read or written. Light language is the language of the heart. It's the language of the soul. And it's the language that I believe humanity spoke before the languages that we know today were developed. So it's not a language that you can study and learn. It's a language that is channeled. Again, it's a frequency. And so when um, it's available to anybody, and when that
Mhm.
person is attuned to a certain energetic frequency, their channel opens up to receive these other frequencies that come through, which can be from um, all kinds of, and it is of the highest frequency of divine love and light. So I think that's important for people to know, because when you get into talking about spiritual things, sure, there's dark spirits, right? That and dark spiritual practices, darker spiritual practices. But light language, as a healing facilitator, it I believe it is here for me to not
Mm.
only heal and evolve as a soul on this planet, but also in the work I use it in the work that I do in working with other people, individuals and groups, collectively. It is here to clear denser energies that we hold on to in our physical bodies and our emotional bodies, our spiritual and our mental self. And actually, it is received on a cellular level. And so it can actually up level or upgrade our DNA, or one's DNA. So it's pretty exciting because it is what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Multiplying. People, more and more people are becoming attuned to their own light language or soul language, using it to empower themselves for their own healing and awakening. Karen, what can you add to that? Or what would you like to
Wow.
add to that?
So,
Or
and I love that. And I love that. And it is, it's almost as unique and individual as each being, right? So
yeah,
it's like it's almost innumerable as it is multidimensional, as it is individual. So, right?
yeah,
So it's not even containable. Like, and that's kind of the word that comes in. And I think that the everything you said I agree with. And my my work with it, and I love how you talk, because we do work with it, right?
mhm,
We work with others, we work in our practice with it, and we work with ourselves with it. And I think that, so what I'm learning to bring through is like that personal journey I've had with it. And where I was stepping in, and it was it was igniting and resonating for me, and becoming very powerful. And when I started exploring more with it and diving into my own being and what I was experiencing with it, I found it to be need to sit and think of that word. So I'm trying to say is I found it to be um, um, almost like a portal, a deeper portal into myself. And I don't know if
I love
portal is the
that.
right word, but through my stepping into that part of my journey and awakening myself deeper to all of the languages and dialects that were starting to come out of me, because we have our soul language, which is like, it's that one language dialect that we most resonate with. As we continue our journey with that, we open more and more. And I wanted to share that I was able to start on my journey, on my evolution. I'm like that person who's always out here. I've learned that it opened me up to remembrance, and I would start to experience different versions of myself, and I would hear others around me speak a certain, like, what was that? I haven't heard that before. I've never spoken that before. And when I just, and so now I'm resonating with them on a certain frequency, and then I would leave. And then I would have my memories like, whoa, like, wow, I'm like on this timeline with you now. And we would, this other person and I would go through healing of that lifetime, or the collective of that lifetime, like jumping into it. And so it's so expansive, like it's like, and I always just want to go with like uncontainable and
Right.
so beautiful and so high resonating, and being on that journey with yourself, and then having that beautiful opportunity to go out and work with others. And it's like that uncontainable word just keeps coming up.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about your when it like first started coming up for you. Like, had you been hearing people speak it, and were you questioning, like, what is this all about? Or were you like of a resonance of like, I need to be doing that. What are they doing? Like something like, tell me about your experience.
Well, as I've mentioned before, I've been a spiritual seeker my whole life, pretty much. Or trying to get back to that soul remembrance, like just feeling like there's something missing, and trying to figure out what that connection was, because I wasn't feeling it in church. I was getting closer when I was on my yoga mat. Got even closer when I started learning Reiki. But I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of it. And it was almost 2 years ago now. A friend of mine called me, and she said, and she's pretty spiritual too. She said, "Have you ever heard of light language?" And I said, "No, what is that? Never heard of it." And she said, "Well, I hadn't heard of it either, but I met somebody and we were talking." And my friend at the time was, I think she was kind of going maybe through something kind of heavy emotionally. And this woman that she had met in a class, I believe she was taking, that was not related to light language. I think it was a manifesting class. They went on a walk together, and I think my friend was sharing some things with this other woman. And the other woman said to her, "I'm feeling really called to speak light language over you. Would you be open to it?" And my friend was like, "Yeah, sure," not really knowing what it was. And she said, "Diane, I have no idea what this woman was saying." She said, "All I can tell you is my whole body just started vibrating and moving in like this circular motion." She said it was the most amazing feeling. And of course, I was like, "Well, I want some of that."
Exactly.
What is that?
What is
So I,
going
I
on
did
here?
I did my a little Googling on it, and I honestly didn't find a whole lot. I was a little curious, but then I dismissed it. And that was that. And it was about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after that conversation that I had with my friend, um, I was just in my own meditation doing some toning of chakra balancing. And as I was toning, different sounds started coming out. And had I not have had that conversation with my friend, I don't know, I don't know how I would have reacted, but I was like, oh my gosh, this must be light language wanting to come through. And so I played around with it. And the more I played, the more amazing it was I would do it in my car and I still do in my car
Yeah.
and going
Car.
for walks. And I would just intentionally be like, I want to channel the frequency of birds or squirrels or uh, balancing my root chakra. Like it's like you have the intention of whatever, and that frequency just automatically comes through. And it's so empowering and so powerful and so beautiful. Um, and so that's kind of was my introduction to it. I was closeted with it
Beautiful.
for probably maybe the first 4 or 5 months until we got reconnected and I learned you were
Yeah.
doing it. And uh, and then I started hearing very clearly, this is not just for you. You are here to share this, and you
Yeah.
are here to activate other people to their own light language. And so that is part of the reason why Karen and I have started this YouTube channel, is
Yeah.
because we really want to not only build a community, a collective of like-minded people, also people who are, no matter where you are on your healing and awakening journey, whether you are familiar with light language, if you're channeling it yourself, or you have never heard of it before, it doesn't matter. It's an energy and a frequency, and the more that we can talk about it and expose other people to it and use it for not only our own healing and evolution, but to help others on theirs so that they can then go out and also do this work with other people.
Yeah.
There's so much power in that, and that is how we change the world. That is how we
Yeah.
change the world. So
Definitely.
I would love for you to share
Beautiful.
about
So
yours. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
as most things, my journey was a little different because I look at what am I often am reminded, like, what am I here to experience? What am I contracted to do in this lifetime? What are my agreements? And sometimes I feel like I'm gonna eventually see that contract. It's gonna be like, girl, you chose fear. You chose fear for everything. And that's been a beautiful journey for me. Peeling down, breaking down these brick walls. That's
Mm.
how I'm experiencing my journey. And I've had a lot of people, friends, just regular friends, like, your walls are really just coming down, Karen. And my thing with light language has been, I was struggling to show up as my spiritual self and struggling to come online and talk about my experiences and what's happening in my dream state. And um, just because I was frozen, like my throat chakra was just frozen. And I've learned on my journey that that is part of my um, journey in this lifetime, is to reconnect with my voice. And I feel like is tied so much to experiences I've had in the past, which I could go on for a week about my recent trip to Scotland, like all the things
Yes,
that I've
that's gonna
excavated,
be a
like,
series. We're gonna do a
right.
series.
That's and why, like, why a lifetime of not speaking and being in a chokehold and just seeing that through my pattern in this lifetime. So, like, that's just a little bit about my journey, but like light language for me came up, and um I think I went into fear about it, like, oh, like, that doesn't sound right, and overly discerning. And that's always been a lesson of mine, is we want to discern. We brought that up a little bit in what you were saying, of needing to discern. And is this something I wanted to participate in? Was this safe for me to do? You want me to go online and say what? You want me to go out and express this? I can't even go out and express what I'm doing with my clients. So it's just a different journey, which is why I love that we've come together, and it's like so different. My I had a friend who a good friend of mine who I've been working with was like, watch this, and sent me a video. And I was like, what is that? Like, I don't even know what that is. And am I in fear of this? Is this something I'm supposed to be doing? This would
Mm,
not be looked upon well if I started speaking this around my family. And I made a decision to choose, I found myself aligned with somebody who actually activates, and she goes a little bit farther, and she did some teaching with it. So I found myself during COVID. That was what I did during COVID. I was home with the headphones in, learning and attuning and feeling and understand, like from this, I'm like in this heart space, like
mm,
understanding from this whole new level. And it's not a higher level, it's like a deeper level. And I was speaking my soul language, which comes out all the time still. And I always know when I'm there, like, oh, that feels so good. And then I found myself expressing other dialects, and my dialects were going anywhere from, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the dialects yet, right? Like that's a whole nother conversation. But like
so
all
much, yeah.
throughout timelines of personal history, on planet, off planet, in the planet, like all, like
Yeah.
that's how like uncontainable it was for me. And once I started healing myself with it and exploring and starting to use my voice in that more like I'm home, like this is how I'm supposed to be speaking. I don't have to be in a struggle and in judgment, and not able to use, constantly healing that throat chakra. This showed up and healed my throat chakra, and now I speak it all over the internet.
Yes, you
And
do
and
so
right.
beautifully too.
And but it's never from a place of self, it's always
Mhm.
from a place of service.
Right,
And that is what I love so much about it. And I feel like we could talk about it forever.
right.
Um, and I'm hearing it's like a healing modality that transcends, it just transcends the humanness that we are, takes us right back into our alignment. And I'm always so amazed when we're with clients, and we just get them to that place where they can hear it and experience it, and the breakthroughs that they can have, and the next steps on their evolution coming to them after experiencing it and then wanting to speak it. And as an activator, I am an activator. I'm always amazed that it's never an intentional activation. It's really like mostly people who watch and listen and participate, or I've worked with, and they're like, I'm starting to speak it. I'll get a message out of nowhere. I'm starting to speak it now too. And I just like, my heart feels so beautiful, because I was always in fear. I would have to go out and I would have to like set something up and be this thing, this old way. And
Old
this
way,
just
yeah.
shows up so beautifully. I feel like that was my experience with it.
I don't think you've ever shared that with me.
Yeah. Well, one of the first languages I heard somebody speak, dialects. I like to use the word dialect. It's kind
Yeah.
of like it has a feel. I heard it and I was like, what is she like? That is like, that was like, what was that? And I'll say what it was. She was speaking dragon.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say that.
And I was like, oh, stop, we're not doing this. Like, and then it was like, wow. And like, to explain the journey, it's like, where in me do I need to heal that,
Mhm,
And I'm
mhm.
and I'm gonna go there because um that is one of my most powerful dialects, right?
So
So it's almost
powerful,
like we fear
so
what
powerful.
fear what we are what we fear. That's what I said to someone in Scotland. We are what we fear. Once you break through the fear, like you can be that beautiful. And being in Scotland, I was in dinosaur land. Like I was in where the
Nessie.
dinosaurs roam. And then just this week there was a whole, I don't know who saw it, I don't know if you saw it, there was a whole disclosure that they found like a dinosaur fossil.
Saw that. Yeah.
That's not a dinosaur. It's like the wing, like it's a dragon. Like, yes. Like, right? It's just like that knowing and feeling of that new coming
Was that
in.
in
And
Scotland that they found it?
I don't know where it was.
I don't
I
know
didn't pay
either.
attention. I don't think it was Scotland, because I would have been all over that. But yeah, like, right. So it's not even like talking about it, it's not even containable. Like, it's just like, what direction do you want to go?
Right. And
But it
to
is,
be able to talk about it in this on this public forum, and not feel weird about it. Like it's 2 years ago, I would have been like, I'm not ready to
Yeah.
to be talking dragons with people on the internet.
Right, right.
But
But
here we are.
and we don't and I don't necessarily feel like everyone needs to know what we're speaking. That's why I feel like that whole dialect conversation comes in because you
Yeah.
just feel it.
It's a felt
Some people
sense,
speak it, some people speak it and they're able to translate it while they're speaking it. Some people don't translate it at all, and it is no less powerful. And the human mind always wants to know, like, what was that? What was said? And
right?
it's like, and
Just
I
feel
always
it.
find myself advising, how did it feel? Like, where
Mhm.
did you feel it? Where did you it literally for me, just like you feel the energy moving through your body when
Yeah,
someone's speaking into it.
yeah, yeah.
So powerful. Yeah.
I I just want to also say that it's not just channeled through the voice. Some people, I know
Yes.
people who only channel it through writing or through artwork. Karen and I both uh, write it. It comes through in codes and use our hands. It's also known as like energy weaving, whereas like if you are familiar with Reiki, that's sort of static hand placement on or above somebody's body. But when we're channeling light language, the codes come in hand gestures and movements. And I did remember once I learned that about light language, I had an experience back in 2018, I believe it was, when I was at a yoga retreat and uh, somebody started speaking tongues because that's what it was called. This was
Yeah.
a Christian yoga retreat over somebody who was going through something. And as soon as I heard the speaking in tongues, which is something we can also address, because I know there's questions about, is it the same thing? Is it different? Um, it was like my body just, I don't even remember getting off my yoga mat. The next thing I knew, I was next to the person speaking tongues over this person who was on their yoga mat. And I was channeling energy with my hands. They were moving.
Yeah.
And I never really thought much about that other than, wow, that was quite an experience. But then once I learned that that's light language, I was bringing it through then,
Yeah.
not through my voice. But so many people, and I know you hear this too all the time, and I believe I spoke it when I was a child. Many people will say, I spoke that as a child,
Yeah. I do hear that also.
or when they hear it, they cry. It brings up, it's a remembrance. It's a soul
Yeah.
remembrance, and they might not know what they're remembering, but it's like they'll say, it sounds so familiar. Um,
Yeah. I think one of the terms I like to use instead of not always light language when I'm speaking, I feel like but it's almost like light linguistics.
mhm,
And it's the motion and the speaking and the energy movement, and it's just being out of time. That's kind of how
yeah,
it feels when you're like in that channel and you're working. It feels
right.
like you're out of time and you're just in that wave of um, what never needs to come in. And I remember also earlier on in my doing table work with people that I would be already bringing my hand around and doing things and not connecting like what I was even doing. Like that goes back to the whole early, Reiki, like what is really happening here? I think that's a whole subject that we go, what is
That's
happening
a
here with
that's
right? And that's a
yeah,
whole nother subject we'll get into. Um, and again, just that is what that was the coding, and it would just come in and it would come in very, for me, very clairvoyantly. And I'd see it and be like, oh, let me copy that. And or actually having felt that movement of my hand, um, how to move it. Beautiful, right? And again, it's just the individual journey of opening and remembering and becoming oneself and rejoining, not rejoining, but realigning with who we are in the channel to allow more to come in, to
yeah,
be more of ourselves, to be here more, to express more that we are, and not in fear,
not in fear,
not
right?
in fear.
And this is um of the divine, of source energy, the creator, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. There is no uh boundaries. It's not attached to a religion, although it can
Mhm.
enhance any religious practices. And I guess being mindful of the time, perhaps we can just sort of close on that, um, speaking in tongues versus speaking light linguistics.
Sure.
Or do you have anything you want to say about that?
I
or-
mean, for me, having been raised in the Catholic Church, and that would be a very biblical, what's the word? I'm seeking the word, of privilege. Like, I want to go there. So speaking
Mhm.
of tongues, for me, in my experience, would be of privilege. You need to be of privilege
Mm,
to do that, within a religious community. And my experience is more, speaking of tongues, being more about speaking oneself outside of being in a religious, container.
mhm,
And I feel like that's the difference for me on tongues versus the soul speaking, like the soul's language,
mm.
the soul's expression. That they're really the same thing. I feel like these are people who are in touch, who
Well,
speak tongues, and it's just, how is it labeled and how is
how
it
is it
taken in?
labeled? Yeah, how is it labeled? Um, and I think, there is some fear around it in certain religious um, churches or communities, speaking in tongues, casting out the devil. I've heard that before.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and are we doing that? Well, kind of, right? It's these lower energies, these three-dimensional energies. I mean, what is the devil other than the ego, right? The ego. And so or limiting beliefs, conditioning, generational traumas that we
Programming.
programming that we're holding into our physical beings or our energy field, and working with the light is casting out the devil, casting out demons, if you want to call it that. Again, it's
Yeah.
all about labels. And I'll end it with this. The beautiful thing about this, I don't even want to call it a practice, this or modality.
It's
I
beyond,
don't
so
want to label
beyond.
it.
It's not even labelable, right?
You can't label it. It is part of who we are. It's coming back to our truth, our essence.
Yes.
Uh, and I lost what I was going to say.
It's okay.
I'm feeling the frequency wanting to come through. So we'll
I've
close
been
with,
feeling it.
yeah. Nyasorokoya tarakia asuya shatakia atoroko toriana rakia toroko torosha takatia Soroko toriana rakotorio toroko torio toroko torasha takia sarakotoriana rakia Niria tarakia. The mind doesn't need to know. Nia rokotoriana rakoya sarakia. It's for the heart to absorb. Nyasuru shitakia atarakatariana rakoya sarakatariana rakotorosha takia. It's a heart connection. Niosorokotoriana for all of humanity to join together. Niosorokotoria in love. Niasarakatariana rakia in light. Yushutukoya sarakia in health. Narokoya sarakia in peace. Niakwakasia shia in abundance. Niatarakia and enjoy.
Beautiful. Aisha ine iaria arua kukaria iaria akaroa tukori iaria okorwa tuku shanukor iki akiaria okorwa tuku akaria okorwa tukoria ti. Yeah, I'm just working through the connection to the heart, to the throat, through the expression, and we're not connecting the heart to the brain. We're bypassing and getting into how it feels and what needs to be expressed and felt.
Yeah,
Mm.
beautiful. So
How long?
beautiful.
Yeah.
So felt.
So much more we can talk about as
Oh
we
my
start
gosh.
exploring that topic.
It's
Yeah.
yes. And please, if you have questions, reach out. Let us know if you're interested in working with either of us or both of us together to for a healing session or an activation session or both, we are here and
Yep.
available. And so sending you all so much love and beautiful lights from my soul light to your soul light, Karen, and
Thank you, received.
everybody else is out there.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll see you back here very soon.
We'll be back.